Can you come kind of, chaperone me? I'm like, of course, boyfriend of the year. I will take you to your audition. On Friday at 2, I drive her to her audition, and we walk in, and it's at, this had not been advertised, but this was for ADV Films. And we walk into their waiting room, and there are chairs lined around the perimeter of the room, and there's a production assistant walking around with a clipboard. And so my girlfriend gets checked in, and they're like, "It'll be 5 minutes or something," and then the production assistant disappears. 5 minutes later, my girlfriend gets her name called, and she walks in the back to the studio and is auditioning. While she's gone, the production assistant comes back, and she's going around the room, and at some point comes to me, and she's like, "Were you auditioning?" I'm like, and she said, "Did you hope to? Did you want to?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that would be amazing." But I was told that there were no slots. She's like, "Well, we're actually running a little ahead, so it's possible we could squeeze you in if you were interested." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely." She's like, "Great, what's your name and all your stuff?" And so she takes it down. My girlfriend comes back. We talk about how it went, and then the production assistant comes back out and says, like, "Actually, there's some time if you want to come back." There we go. So I went back, I auditioned. It was great. It seemed to go smoothly. And 1 week later, from ADV Films to come in and do a bit role for Master of Mosquiton. It was the anime they were working on at the time. They needed a sizable male cast for soldiers. There were a bunch of soldiers. So I played a British communications officer or something. And I had 2 lines, and then I immediately got killed, and that was...
We're done.
But you still got your foot in the door.
That's right. So that was my introduction to anime. And from there, I got called, from time to time again by ADV Films for slightly larger and larger bit parts.
Oh, that's neat.
So you level up. You're like the
moving up pretty much.
Yeah.
Start small, then you move up.
Yeah. And so as the denouement to the story is my girlfriend, who had gone through all the proper channels, never got called.
Oh.
But as a consolation prize, I married her. So we got that going for us. She did later, as I got to know the folks at ADV well, I met one of the sound guys at some point. They were working on a new anime called, I think, Yuna, Fräulein of the Galaxy. I think, is that the name of it? Did I get it right? And so there is singing, and there's a character who's like the Queen Diva of the Galaxy or something, who sings a lot. And my girlfriend was an opera singer. And so the sound engineer somehow knew that, or he knew her through something else, maybe through a church connection. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Your girlfriend sings, right? Because there's a character that really needs some pipes. Would she be willing to come in?" I'm like, "I'll ask her." And so she said she was up for it. So she did come in and actually did record and got a role and came back that day and said, "That was awful." I'm so embarrassed. That sounded really bad, because she was classically trained opera singer, and so she needs to prepare and warm up and make sure she's used to singing with instrumentation, obviously, and so she's singing opera a cappella, which is not typical, and so she's very self-critical. She's her own biggest critic, and so she was like, "That was dreadful." And indeed, she didn't. And when the show came out, and it was on VHS at the time, and I was in the studio, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, here's the VHS of Yuna if you want to take it to your girlfriend." I'm like, "Oh, fantastic." And I brought it back. I'm like, "It's here. Let's watch it." She's like, "No, I never want to watch that." And she didn't. I watched it. I thought she did great.
I think it might just be because of the whole a cappella versus instrumentation thing. It doesn't sound like it's supposed to, and someone who's so experienced in that, this is wrong.
Yeah, I think that was her take on it. But anyway, that is the entire story arc on how I got involved in anime, and how my then girlfriend, now wife, had a 1 week sort of experience, never to go back again.
That was neat.
Yeah.
It's a nice story.
So there you go. Are there other questions I can field?
Why is the sky blue?
I guess it's
Do the
just,
mics work or? I don't.
Sure, yeah.
I would just say like it seems when it comes to voice acting, it's either of course you need like some kind of theater background, and I guess what I've noticed lately is with YouTube when I see people who do of course voice acting on YouTube or they sing, and I've actually seen some YouTubers and they do singing and their voices are pretty nice, and I actually seen them do anime roles too. So pretty much it's just like you need some kind of theater background, or just like you said before, just being in front of like camera work and everything.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. I mean, one of the biggest misconceptions about voice acting is that it's mostly reliant on the voice. So someone who has been told they've got a good voice, or they'd be good on the radio, or they have, you know, the golden tones or whatever, it is their belief that they would be well suited to voiceover, and that might be, but there's a difference between voiceover and voice acting. And so for voice acting, the operative word is acting. And so far more important than somebody who's got those, you know, the voice of God, or can do lots of character voices or lots of accents, or, you know, wacky impressions or whatever.
Yeah.
All that's good stuff. But what a director is looking for more than that is a good performance. And so I work with, you know, of my peers, a lot of them don't do, you know, character voices. Like they will, you know, they can pitch their voice up and down to sound older or younger, but you're not going to get from them, you know, a broad array of like different character voices or accents or anything like that. It's not their thing, and it's not needed. You know, they get cast again and again and again and again because they're great actors, and they can kind of
Like
inhabit.
change their voices. And
Yeah,
everything.
but more than that, what's most important is that they can inhabit a character and bring it to life, and imbue it with emotion and life and you know, that essence. And you know, and they play well off of other actors, and they take direction. And so this is stuff that is important to kind of any sort of any brand of acting, and it's just as important for voice acting. And so, you know, that's the kind of biggest misconception for people to get over, is that now if you've got some acting experience and you know are so inclined and able to bring a character to life, and then on top of that you can do accents and character voices, wonderful. That's great. That'll broaden your opportunities, and you know, in terms of when you're getting cast, you'll be considered for other characters. So, yeah.
Okay, I guess at the beginning I was just kept on thinking about like talking about camera work versus voiceover work.
Yeah.
I've heard that, you know, the two are very different ballgames because
Sure.
there's things that you do in theater because you can see them that just they do not exist in voiceover, so you have to do something. There's some, I mean, I think some people might be kind of like I've heard that there's some like camera actors who just don't know how to voice act, and or just are bad at voice acting. I wonder if it's like the other way around, where some people are great for voice acting, but they just don't turn out quite well on screen.
Yeah, that may be. I think you know, they do have their differences. The most obvious one is that for voice acting, it doesn't matter what you look like. There's no hair and makeup. It's quicker.
So if you don't look like your voice, then that's a problem on the screen, but on camera, but in an animation.
Yeah, you can be anyone. And so I think, you know, that's something, because when casting directors are casting for a TV show or a commercial or a movie or whatever, anything on camera, they do have to consider the look. So they do need good actors, but they're also looking for someone that fits the role, their vision of what they have in mind for the character. And so yeah, there are certain roles that certain actors can just never get because they don't fit the look. However, the horizons are totally broadened in the booth, and I think kind of technically speaking, you know, there are differences in terms of what you have to bring to the role and bring to the performance, because in acting for camera or for stage, obviously there's non-verbal cues. There are things that you're doing, that you're acting, where your expression or your body language is helping to convey the role, which obviously you don't get in the booth. In voice acting, it's sort of everything that we're putting into a character needs to come through in our voice alone. Obviously, we rely on the animation a great deal. If it's good animation and if it's expressive, then obviously that helps helps us do our jobs better. But there's differences in terms of what you need to bring to a role if you're doing it on camera or doing it on stage. And on stage, obviously, you need to be acting for the person in the very back row just as much as you're acting for the person in the front row. So it's bigger, it's broader, it's more expressive. With camera, the camera is going to be tighter in, and so you can't be as big and broad.
You have to have very fine control.
It's a lot more subtle, and then you just take that one more step if you're in a booth, whereby that subtlety is important too, but you have to give a little something else because everything's going to be conveyed through your voice. You can't rely on anything else that you'd be able to do physically to convey what's going on with that character.
That's one thing I was going to wonder is if the individuals who aren't as good at voice acting is if they rely too much on their facial expressions and body language carrying that extra oomph.
Yeah, it's possible. I have not encountered anyone who had a long, rich experience of on-camera acting and then came into the booth and didn't know what they were doing. There is, there's a learning curve there, but by and large, I think people that have had long experiences as actors are able to adapt pretty well and kind of bring something that's worthwhile and useful. The director feels like, yeah, good, this is a good contribution. Glad to have them in the show. Are there any other questions? Yes?
I'm just curious, the whole voice acting. Pretty much it's just, of course, it's good, it's kind of like recommendation to do theater work. I was just wondering throughout your career if you know anyone who didn't really have like an acting or a theater like background, and they just kind of got, I guess, lucky in a way in the voiceover career and everything. I'm just curious about that. If anyone just got lucky, it's just like, I like your voice, I want to try you out, or something like that,
Yeah, for sure. It definitely happens. I think there's just so.
Right.
I think while my story, or at least the idea of people who start in theater and then slowly find their way to different kinds of acting, that is largely the most common. But yeah, I think people have fallen into it in a number of ways. I know that at most studios, that if the people that work in the back that are in kind of video editing or in fulfillment or in the warehouse, like at some point a director is going to need a bunch of people to come in and provide walla for like the restaurant scene or the big crowd scene or the stadium scene. And so it will frequently happen where they will walk out of their studio, down the hall, into the office, in the office part, and be like, you, I need help, come. And, frequently these people did not sign on to this job because they were interested in getting in the booth, and so they are painfully shy and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know if this is a good idea. And the director's like, you'll be fine, we'll walk you through. And so I've heard loads of stories like that, but some of those people, I think, after a while, they keep getting called in because they're needed. They're unpaid, obviously, but they come in to do like half a line. And from time to time, they can start actually getting a small bit part out of the deal and growing into it that way. I had a good friend, Matt Culpepper, who was my roommate after college for a while. I had met him while working at a restaurant. We were both waiters at this restaurant that featured singing waiters. I was one of the singing waiters. He was not one of the singing waiters. But he and I became friends, and he was one of those people who had no acting experience. He was a classically trained pianist, so he knew how to perform, but he did not enjoy being on stage or acting or anything like that. And he had this just incredible, like, you know, gravelly voice.
It would be like that could work for something.
Yeah, and so we were friends for a long time, and I was in the middle of some years later working on Saint Seiya at ADV Films, and this was one of those shows that just goes on forever. It's got 120 episodes, and there are saints. You know, it's a big fighting show, so they're looking for adversaries just all the time. Like there's a different villain that shows up again and again and again and again and again. And so the director's like, I'm running out of actors. Like, do you know anybody? And I'm like, I may know a guy. So I actually ended up getting 2 friends to come in, and Matt Culpepper was one of them. And he, again, didn't have a big acting background, but he was a goof. I mean, he was great at accents. He loved to impersonate people.
Kind of like what I'm talking about, like you joke around.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And so,
That happens.
and he, you know, he could take direction. So it took a little time to get him warmed up to being in the booth and kind of knowing how to do that properly. But he did great. He played one of my chief adversaries in Saint Seiya, and then started getting cast.
That's cool. I like that.
With some regularity. So yeah, I don't know, for anyone who was able to come to Lake Texarkana Gamma yesterday, he played 2 key roles in that, and almost without fail gets the biggest laughs in that movie every time we show it. So
That's cool.
yeah, you never know how you might.
It's just like someone could do pretty much, like you have no kind of acting career or theater, and then like someone could just do a recording on you, and of course, again, like post it on YouTube. It's so easy, you know, nowadays. And then who knows, you might get discovered and then be like, I want to try out this person. So I was just curious, you know, those who don't even have a theater background or acting, you know, if it's like a possible chance.
Yeah,
in
So
for
like,
sure.
so like nowadays, it's not like you need a major or something, right? A theater major.
No.
Or like going to like college and classes. And
Yeah. No.
I know it's recommended, but
Sure.
it's good to have on a resume.
I think
but-
I think in anything, more experience is better. And
Yeah.
then, if you've got something on your resume that shows that you know how the industry works, then directors are going to be more inclined to call you in, because even if they come across someone who is like a diamond in the rough, they might be interested in bringing that person in, but they know it's going to be more of an investment of time.
Yeah.
So, sometimes the way, production schedules are, they've got a limited amount of time to slap the show together, and so they know that if they're working with people that have done it before, things will go more quickly and more smoothly, and that might be what they need. But occasionally, if it's a scenario where they've got a much more kind of relaxed production schedule, then maybe they've got time to kind of bring someone in who they've got to handhold and coach a little bit. That might be worth it to them.
Coaching and all that.
And again, this comes up frequently, whereby out of desperation, if they, if they've run out, if they've got
Desperate kind.
if they've got an enormous cast that they've already cast everyone they know to do roles, and there's still roles left, then by all means they'll start asking members of the cast, like, do you know anybody that you can recommend? So,
That's cool.
It
Yeah, it happens.
That sounds like-
No, go ahead. I was
It
just
sounds
saying
like that's the case for like, I mean, I don't know if it was before, but it sounds like it's a thing that like you will often get called in for Walla, and then that's sort of also a way to sort of like, they hear you talking, they're like, if they get an idea, that's actually a really good foot in the door. And Walla is one of those ones where they can hear like, we need more people.
Yeah. So there are a number of sort of pathways into the industry.
Okay, cool.
Where that's.
I mean, is Walla something that they would commonly or even sometimes like call people like that they don't know? Is that the one they're most likely to do it for? Or they? I mean, you said that like if they're pressed on time, they'll go for someone they know or is already very established. But it seems they're wanting to find more new people. I was hearing that because of the whole simuldub thing, there are people who literally do not have the time to do all of the shows at once, and so they need more people. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that comes into play, and I can't speak for any studio officially, and certainly not all of them, but I think, so they have different policies on doing open calls, like open auditions. I know the Sentai seems to do one like once a year. It's not very frequent that they do an open audition. But yeah, once they do that, normally it is not because they've got a show coming up within a month and they know they need a cast for it. It's just to kind of get a stable of kind of fill the bench, as it were, just kind of be aware of who's out there and available. And so they'll make notes on people that have come in and get their name, contact information, and kind of keep them handy. And so I think for big Walla needs, typically they'll just use what's available. I think it's a rarity that they would call someone in brand new and have them sign a contract just to do 15 minutes of Walla. Like it happens. What's more common is that if they've called someone in to do a role in a show, and then down the hall a director is working on something else and has people that they need for Walla, then office actors here for show A will say, while you're here, would you mind? We've still got some time on you're supposed to be here for an hour. We were done with your role in 35 minutes. Would you mind going down the hall and doing 5 minutes of Walla? And so that's, I have done that too. And so, that's normally how the directors will find all the people they need for Walla.
So the best way to get yourself in that studio in the first place is to answer an open audition call, basically?
Yes, or, there's nothing to stop you from putting together a reel and introducing yourself and sending it to them.
I guess maybe it depends on the studio if they don't cold call us or something.
I've never heard a studio that said don't cold call us.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, but again, you want to do it in a way that's kind of non-obtrusive, like you don't want to make a pest of yourself. So yeah, you're not going to try to hunt down the direct phone number of the CEO. But yeah, get their address, write them a letter, find out where they get their social media handles. You can often tweet at them, DM them, or send them a note, send them an email. They'll have an email contact us form on their website. Like they're used to receiving kind of comments from fans and questions, and then people who are interested in breaking into the industry. And I think a lot of times people that are looking for talent will have on their contact page, like, if you're a fan and you have a question or you have trouble ordering something, contact us on this email address. If you're interested in if you are a talent, then contact us on this email address. Like they're used to that. And so I would recommend to people that are interested that reach out and find out, say, like, I'm an actor, I have this experience, whatever experience. If you guys are having open calls at any time, I would like to be notified. Or if you have specific needs for specific shows, here's the kind of character type I am. Like I'm able to do.
And then the demo would basically be your business card.
Yeah.
Because so, I hear nowadays you don't want to, they won't be happy with just a paper resume. They want to hear your demo up front.
I think that varies. I don't think, obviously it helps. I think if you make it as easy as possible for a casting director to know that you're a talent that they could use, all the better. So, but I think, you can never predict what the needs are going to be. And so if you did send just a paper resume and say, I'm an actor, I'm local, I have experience, I can do these types of voices, if ever you guys are having auditions, I'd love to have it. I wouldn't be able to tell you that would never work. It might. But if you're able to put together some sort of demo or at least some sort of sample of what you can do with your voice and send that to them, all the better. Or in your cover letter, if you're sending a resume and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm local to you, I have experience, I would like to do this. If you would like my demo, I have one, let me know, I can send it to you. Or I've got my demo up on YouTube, here's the link, please check it out at your convenience. So I think there's any number of ways that could work. I would not be in a position to say that something won't work, because I've seen it all. I've seen it all.
There's a chance.
In your experience, how often would you say is an acceptable amount to check in with them to say, hey, I still exist, I'm still looking for work and I'm available?
Yeah.
Once a week, once a month?
I would say probably once a month. And then, I would be surprised, at least, in Texas, in our industry, it's kind of the case that it's just a little slower pace. Like I would have different advice for someone who's in LA or New York, where they're kind of these huge, the sort of huge concentrations of acting industry and performing entertainment industry. But it's different in Texas. So I think, frequently you're going to find that the people that are working in casting department or that are in charge of communications department, the people that are receiving these emails or tweets or DMs or whatever, are going to answer and say, thanks so much for your submission, we'll be reviewing it, we'll get back to you. Like, I don't think you're going to be kind of in the void.
But I don't want to be a pester.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have any experience of kind of where that limit is.
Yeah, I think I would go with once a month, and if at some point, if they feel like they need to send a message to you that we've heard, we hear you, we know you're there, thank you, noted. If we have needs, we'll let you know. Like I think most of the folks, at least in the studios in Texas that I dealt with, would be able to communicate that to you in a way that there wouldn't be a big risk of you being pissed. Yep.
Back what you were talking about earlier about trying to get into the industry, this might help us. You might be able to confirm this as well. I know like two people who kind of got in recently. Sarah Wiedenhoff and Elizabeth Sweet, who's a YouTuber known as Miss Shadow Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
For Elizabeth Sweet, she was a YouTuber for like years and years and done a lot of acting and narration on YouTube. Then she moved up to Dallas and auditioned for some Funimation or whatever, and she got cast as additional voices in Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Mm-hmm. And then she's been doing all right. She every now and then she posts like what she is, but it's not often though. Like maybe once a month, like you said. And then Sarah Wiedenhoff, like when she started, she went for one of the open auditions, and there were like 12 or so people. But she was the only one that Funimation called back, because she was the only one with a theater degree. Mm. And so I guess there's many factors how they do and who they bring in.
Yeah,
to look at your background.
Yeah, it's just widely varied, and it just depends on so many X factors. I know at Funimation, they've got loads of directors working on shows at any given time, and so each director has their own style and their own needs, their own interests, and so I think someone who's a talent that's showing up in front of them. One way or another, like one director might see something in them that is interesting, or might be willing to take a chance in them that another director might not take a chance on. So, again, I think you do see everything across the spectrum in terms of people's backgrounds getting involved.
Yeah, so I guess those two stories were just two different cast directors' perspectives.
Yep. Sure. Were there other questions? Yeah.
Has voice actor been some of your most memorable experiences as playing characters? What have been some of your favorite characters? Favorite types?
Great question. Always, and this changes from year to year too. As I get to experience other characters and kind of meet them and help sort of tell their stories, it's always gratifying. But and I've mentioned this numerous times over the weekend, and don't mind saying it again. Prince Mito is way up there.
Oh yes.
He was. We knew, the cast knew, the director knew, I think, when we were working on it, that this was something really special that we were getting to be a part of. And so I think we all threw ourselves into it a little bit more, gave it a little extra effort, just because it was special. And as we were seeing the story unfold, obviously we were emotionally impacted by it. Like, it was just beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And then I've mentioned this many times, but Mito was I think pretty easily one of the most challenging characters ever, just because of his story arc. The fact that his voice is very different from my normal speaking voice. So that was something that was a physical challenge to me, and then kind of emotionally and psychologically there was a challenge in kind of playing him as completely emotionless. Like that, that is not an easy thing to do, because you still have to be able to convey that he cares about things, and he does care. But he has no emotion at first, and slowly that is gradually evolving. And so, kind of shepherding that process was a challenge, but so gratifying and rewarding. And then, it's a common answer from actors. Playing villains is fun. It's a thing. So I've had a lot of fun, with numerous of those, like in A Kami Ga Kill, which is the first show I was involved in that got onto Toonami. I played Dr. Stylish. He's like a mad scientist, and his name is Dr. Stylish, so that's kind of cool. So he was super flamboyant and wicked. He was hilarious. So I got to have fun with him in a show called Black Bullet. I play a guy named Kamitani Hiroko. He starts off by being the big bad villain, and then slowly over the course of the show, he becomes more of an anti-hero. And so he was cool, but he's larger than life, just super confident. So he was a lot of fun to play as well. And then most recently, I played a villain in Princess Principal, a guy called the Duke of Normandy. He is set in Victorian England. He is a proper British gentleman, very well-mannered, well-kept, and totally evil. He's a bad guy. So he was fun. And then also quite recently in the show Review Starlight, if anyone knows that one. It's a show about girls. It's kind of a magical girl sort of show, but they're all performers, and they're all at this academy for performers. It's like performing and visual arts academy. But then in the basement of the academy is like a secret stage for kind of superstar actors, and you've got to audition to get into the secret underground performance thing. And that whole underground performance thing is overseen by a telepathic giraffe. That's me. So I got to be that guy who's like the director of this big show, and he's looking for the next big star. So that was obviously a lot of fun.
I was about to say, how meta was that you're suddenly the director of actors as a voice actor?
Yeah. So yeah, that happens with some regularity. So yeah, there have been quite a few memorable ones. It's always hard to pick one, but there's lots of fun ones. Any others? Yeah.
How do you feel about the limited production schedule that comes with doing simul-dubs?
It has its pros and cons, I guess. I mean, my experiences so far have all been terrific. Like I have not had any challenges. I know it can be challenging, and I've heard stories about because it's the greatest challenge of it, and this is the challenge for the actors, the director, and the studio, is they don't necessarily know what's coming. And so, I've heard from the directors that it can be challenging to cast certain roles because they don't know the whole story arc. So the way it used to be was, these shows got produced in Japan, they ran through their cycle, a year passed, and then the rights came up, and so American companies could buy it. And so by that time, the show's out, everyone knows how it ends. And so when the studios in America purchase the rights, they know what's happening. They know kind of how all the characters will evolve and what happens to them. And so when they cast for those characters, they are able to have a sense of, this character doesn't do much in the first 5 episodes, but in episode 6 they have their moment, and then they're key central character throughout the end of it. And so I need to cast someone who I know can carry the water of that character after the evolution. Not so with the simul-dubs always. So there are times where they'll call on, you know, some of the actors that they know are some of the strongest actors, because, you know, they have the big characters that they're casting for, and then that character gets killed in episode 3 by firing. And then likewise, they'll, you know, grab someone down the hall in the editing suite to come fill in a bit part, and then what do you know, that character becomes a major character, and like they've got someone in the booth who's not an experienced actor. So there are some challenges with that. So far for me, it's been great. They will ask, you know, do you have any travel plans over the next 3 months? If not, then great, because they just need to make sure you're in town, because they just don't know from week to week what's coming. But I think it's fun. I mean, I've had a great time with it, because that is a way too that I get to have the experience of seeing the show unfold in real time, just like everybody else. And, you know, there's pros and cons to that. Sometimes I like knowing where the story is going, and sometimes I like not knowing. Just so there's, you know, some surprises around the corner, like what's going to happen with this character, and what is their arc going to be, and, you know, what happens to them. So that's fun, yeah.
Actually, a follow-up kind of based off of that question. I know sometimes, even in Japan, they're rushing so much to get the episode to the broadcast. Like sometimes, you know, within a day when it's going on air, that they'll take shortcuts they're not happy with in the animation, and then by the time the home video release comes out, they will have had time between the broadcast and when it has to be sent off for production of the home video release they go back and make some changes. And I know occasionally in Japan there's been instances where they have gone back and redone a little bit of dialogue, little tweaks like that. Has that turned up yet on the American dubbing side between the simuldubs by the time it gets to home video? Have you had to go back and do pickups for changes?
We do pickups, but in that specific instance, no. I mean, I've not encountered that at all with, you know, a simuldub that is different from the DVD release, because it was rushed. I've not been a part of anything that, and again, I mean, just as an actor, I'm not seeing everything behind the scenes, but you can generally tell if you're part of something that is kind of, there's a frantic rush to it. Normally that will come across, and I've not experienced that so far. But yeah, we do pickups, because it happens where character shows up in a scene that maybe the script writer or the translator missed, like where they are, and so that the name doesn't show up. And so, you know, we're doing a keyword search, for the name to show up in the script, just to make sure we've caught everything. So sometimes it happens where, you know, they get into, they're recording somebody else, and like, wait a minute, that's so-and-so character. Like, why didn't we get? And they've got a single mouth flap, and like they say, wow, or I don't know what. And so yeah, we'll be calling back in for stuff like that. But that's rare too. You're welcome. Are there other questions? Yeah.
Have you ever had a difficult time with a director?
No, I mean, everyone's different. Everyone has different styles, and so I think, you know, that can be a challenge for actors to kind of adapt to very different styles. I think, you know, I've been fortunate that through the span of my career, I've gotten to know many directors really well, and so, you know, there are those that I work with really well, and they feel like I'm doing a good job, and we kind of know each other and understand the process, and so, you know, you kind of fall into an easy pattern in terms of the working relationship. The character can differ wildly. I mean, it doesn't mean that, like I said, everything's a cakewalk, and you do go in sometimes and have challenging, you know, kind of acting job ahead of you, but in terms of, you know, the kind of relationship with the director itself, I really haven't had any problems. You know, very early on, I would encounter kind of newer directors, like how directors get started. You know, they can come from varied backgrounds. A lot of them that I've worked with started in advertising. And so they were, creative directors at an advertising agency. And so their experience with directing actors would be if they cast somebody for a commercial and they go in the studio and the client's here on the couch and they're here on the other end of the couch and an actor's in the booth and they're doing a 30-second commercial, the creative director is giving them some direction. But typically, there's not a lot needed. Like, you've got a 30-second script, you're advertising peanut butter or whatever it is, and so the direction is limited to say that a little faster, a little slower, just enunciation type stuff, more than kind of drawing out kind of the emotional core of a character. Like, that's not needed for a 30-second peanut butter commercial. So the directors that then go into studios to create an anime, it's kind of a new experience for them as well. And so I've worked with directors who didn't quite know what to draw out from their actor, or
Elicit what they want.
That can be a challenge for them. So that's been kind of a learning curve. It's not, but I've never clashed with anybody for sure. But I mean, the greatest challenges I had with directors early on in my career was characters that were really screamy, very angry or in a battle or whatever, and there's lots of screaming, and the director would be like, all right, let's do it again, more screaming, louder screaming, like, really, I want to hear your vocal cord shredding. I'm like, oh god. So, that's honestly, that's the greatest challenge that I've dealt with. You hear stories, I guess, and out there are, I guess it can be personality clashes, or, I guess it happens occasionally where a director will tell an actor they're just not feeling it, or like, I don't know, I can't even think of an example of someone in particular I've heard, but you do hear stuff like that where the director is just trashes somebody's performance, or said like, I'm not feeling it, let's call it a day, try again tomorrow. Like, that could be demoralizing for the actor, but you sort of, you get to a point where you have confidence that the director knows what they're doing, and the studio knew what they were doing when they hired the director, so that you just sort of place yourself into their hands and believe that they are shepherding you and your performance in a way that is going to create the best end product. Were there any others? Yeah.
What are some of your favorite animes that you have not been in?
We have like 7 minutes.
Honestly, I don't get a chance to watch too much anime, but I did, for some of the shows that made it on to Toonami, we would have viewing parties, and so whatever came on after our show was over, we just let it roll. And I forget, I cannot think of the name of the show, but it was a show that starred Monica Rial, who I've had a great working relationship with over the years. And this was a show that Funimation produced. I played no more than an adult. She just played some badass kind of like vagrant, kind of bounty hunter type character, and that was very enjoyable. But again, I only saw a few episodes. I probably went to go take that one back down. And then I enjoy a good episode of Dragon Ball Z from time to time, like anybody else. So there are some good ones out there. Anyone else have any time trivia?
We're at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, then I guess that's the official end of the Me, Jay Hickman panel.
Okay.
I hope you have. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to be downstairs. I will be here for closing ceremonies, but between now and then, I'm at my booth. If you guys have any other questions or want me to sign a thing, I'm glad to do it. I'll see you down there. Thanks again.